Hey everyone, it's Scott from startmedia.com, and I'm going to be discussing another part of the Lighthouse and PageSpeed Insights performance test. This time we'll be going over what the speed index grade is, what it means, how you can improve it, and what it means for your total score. Speed index is one of the 6 metrics currently used by Lighthouse and PageSpeed Insights to determine a performance score for your website. The speed index in itself is sort of a metric. It's a metric of a metric. Speed index it effectively measures how quickly content will be displayed during your website's load time. So what Lighthouse and PageSpeed Insights do is they actually record a video of the page loading in the browser, and then they run a test against that to determine a speed index score. And the speed index score is, again, its own metric, and it's generally improved by a lot of code skimming and loading assets only when necessary. But let's first discuss where your site should be on the speed index score. So a speed index score of 0 to 4.3 seconds is typically going to get you in the green zone. That'll be a 75 to 100 percentile of websites. The average score of websites will be in the 4.4 to 5.8 second range. So that'll be the 50 to 74 percentile. And anything over 5.8 seconds will be red, and that'll give you in the bottom half of websites. Now, my website currently scores about a 2.5 seconds, which is good for a 3G mobile connection. The CNN mobile website scores in about a 33.6 seconds. That's obviously way in the bottom half of slow loading websites. But depending on how PageSpeed Insights and CNN likes to build their page, they may be more focused on driving users to their mobile apps than their mobile website. But I digress. So the speed index score can be improved through a couple of measurements. Minimizing main thread work, which is just a very fancy way of saying removing unused code and not using overly complicated code. So in their case, most of their main thread is all being driven up by advertisements. Advertisements are going to eat up main thread time for the browser, which takes longer to render the page. And unfortunately, advertisements are one of those things that if your website needs them, you have to take the hit. Additionally, something else that you could do is reducing the JavaScript execution time. Serving small packages of JavaScript only when absolutely necessary will reduce the amount of CPU time and reduce the execution time, which will then improve the overall load time of the page. You also want to make sure that your text is remaining visible. So using font display swap on text files, WAFs, and TTFs will greatly improve your website's user experience because they will get the page loading in front of them faster. I use font display swap in my Google Fonts, and I also use the text parameter to reduce the size of my Google Fonts that are transmitted. What this means is my text for a split second on load, it's quite fast, so I didn't even notice it. But the text on load will actually be unstyled. It'll fall back to a browser or an operating system dependent system save file, and it will use that font and then swap to the Google font once it's been downloaded. This gives the users the illusion that the page is loading faster because content's in front of them. It's more important that users get some content in front of them that might be unstyled than to have no content in front of them and they're left wondering if the page is actually going to load or if it's broken. Additional things you can do is just reducing the amount of code you're sending, minifying your CSS, minifying your JS, loading it faster via CDN, loading it non-render blocking fashions, so deferring your JS, loading it with async, preloading what's necessary, reducing your TTFB. All of those can help drive down your speed index score, which will help your overall performance score in PageSpeed Insights. Remember that PageSpeed Insights, all the different metrics are weighted differently. So the first contentful paint combines equal to 20% of your score. Your first meaningful paint is a 20% impact on your score. the speed index is only equal to 10%. It's one of the least important metrics. The time to interactive time, which I have as 4.0 seconds, is only equal to 15%. And the total blocking time, which is your input delay, is equal to 20%. So while the speed index is important, it's not the most important metric. But just because PageSpeed Insights ranks a metric as less important, it doesn't mean that it's not important. Having content visually in front of people is oftentimes more valuable than having a process being done in the background that's eating up CPU idle time. For a point of comparison, if you have a live chat widget on your website, it might have a large complicated background. Let's say it has 100 requests, it goes back and it pings the server a couple times, it fetches your image, but your content is visually in front of users in, let's just say, 4 seconds. So it's not a completely optimized website, but if it's loading in 4 seconds, but this one chat widget is reducing your interactive and potential input delay to 10 seconds, then the users are still going to get everything else on your website, at least they should, and are able to experience, read, and interact with it. But you're waiting for this chat widget you have going on in the background that's taking forever, and they may not even ever get to interact with it. But at least they were able to interact and read your page, click on your menu, things of that nature. So all the metrics have to be taken with a grain of salt, and the scoring guide changes so often. In the next revision of Lighthouse, the first meaningful paint time, which we already did a video on, is likely to be removed entirely and replaced with a different metric. If you have any questions regarding this test, you can feel free to ask me in the comments below. If you would like some general advice for your website, or you'd like to have your website optimized, you can contact me on my website. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.